Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm on the wrong camera. Welcome to this week's midweek medicine. Come on, look, we're getting ready to start part 2 of this. If you tuned in last week, we started coping with Christ's principles, and I want to pick up on where we left off last week in talking about this. In this message here, we have been dealing with coping through Christ and some pointers and some principles that we've been given in dealing with this. And this is our vision here and the mission for these kingdom principles to help you navigate through life's obstacles. Helping you navigate through life's obstacles. There's so many of us dealing with things we keep bottled up inside. We keep to ourselves. We don't share. And then we find ourselves overcome by these situations. But I'm wanting to help come alongside of you and deal with the difficult. When we're talking about coping means to deal with life's difficulties. Let me give you the definition here just to be inaccurate. To deal with and attempt to overcome problems and difficulties. Another aspect of that is to deal successfully with or handle a situation. How do I cope with something? How do I successfully deal with this thing that I'm dealing with? Or what does success look like? Because success looks different for everyone. As our motto is here at Success Life Church Fellowship, to help you live your success life now. Everyone's success life is different or looks different because our purpose and our potential is in line with the plan that God has for us. So when I tap into those things that are drawing me, that purpose that is drawing me, the thing that I am drawn to, obstacles come in play to get us to go away from or what come and destroy us. But how you navigate through those obstacles is going to be the determining factor of how you come out either successfully or destroyed by the thing. But how do you cope in the going through? There's a as I used to say, coming out of the wilderness or coming out of Egypt, and then they went into the wilderness before they got to the promised land. Well, that in between is the training ground. That in between is how we cope with the things. So I'm making the point in this second part here to finish up the points that we have been dealing with. So go back to the first point and first part and tie in with this part here on how to cope with things through Christ. So as we talked last week, number one, we talked about bringing it to God. You have to bring your issue to God as Philippians 4 and 6. Let's go back to that passage here to pick up where we left off last week. Philippians 4 and 6, it says, "Be careful for nothing, but in all things, through prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known unto God." And look at verse 7. Let your requests be made known unto God, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ. What shall it keep? Your heart and your mind. Remember last week we talked about the heart. The condition of the heart is there bitterness in your heart, or is there a mindset of being better? See, when your mindset is focused on better, that means you're operating out of a heart that stayed on Him. A heart that is good ground, not allowing outer circumstances to seep in to give you a hardened heart to go against God. So as we talked last week in Proverbs 3 and 5, you find yourself trusting in the Lord with all your heart and leaning not to your own understanding. Because if I lean to my own understanding, the peace that passes understanding is going to pass me by because I'm trying to you can't understand God at times. You have to trust Him. He is faithful to perform what He promised. So now if my heart and mind through Christ is stayed on Him, then I find myself getting that strength that Christ promised, and through that strength, I propel myself forward. So first I bring it to God, Secondly, I leave it with God. Come on, we ended last week on that note. Leaving it with God. That is the key, critical, crucial part of this message. Because I can tell if I've left something with God or if I kept it with myself. Because of my attitude and my mindset in going through that shows that I didn't leave it. My attitude, mainly. What is our attitude? See, when Israel came out of the Egypt in the biblical times in the Old Covenant, and they were brought into the wilderness before going through the promised land, he was trying to get some mental things out of them, some roadblocks, some things that would not be beneficial to them in going to the promised land. And so they find themselves without food, water. They found themselves without food. And then a lot of them wanted to go back to Egypt, into the place of bondage that they were brought out of. And they were getting bitter mindsets and a bitter heart against God. And where is God when we need him? And why does he allow these things to happen? Why has he brought us into this wilderness to destroy us? No, he didn't bring them there to destroy them. He brought them to bring them to the promise. But in order to get to the promise, they had to go through the wilderness because of their thought processes, because of their attitude, and because of their thinking. And in Numbers chapter, they say, we are like grasshoppers to these giants. And they're going to overcome us. And only 2 of them said, we are well able to overtake them and take the land. One saw this as a better opportunity. Others saw this from a bitter heart, saw defeat. So how did we see 2 ways of coping with things. And my question is, how are you coping with what you're going through? It's your attitude of how do you see the thing. What is your viewpoint? If it's your kingdom, is it a kingdom viewpoint? Or is it a self-viewpoint or your world thinking or the way have you been taught to think, and then now you find yourself with a fixed mindset, thinking this is the way it's going to always be. I'm not going to be able to overcome this. I'm not going to get, through this. Or do you have a growth mindset where it's, look, I'm going to get through this. This is not an opportunity to destroy me. This is an opportunity for me to grow from this, to become, as we said in last week's message, who are you becoming? See, to become is a growth statement. I'm ever becoming. I'm ever growing. Who I was last week, I'm not this week. Who I was last year, I'm not this year. And I'm not going to be next year because I'm growing to be better. Are you getting better? Come on, you got to leave it with God. See, when you leave it with God, it gets you into a mindset to grow with God as he brings you through trials and brings you through circumstances and situations. The enemy will throw things on you, but what the enemy throws on you, God will use for you to get through it. But the thing is not coming to destroy you. The thing is coming to grow you in the area that you may have been running from. So as we have stated last week, are you trying to escape the situation or are you trying to face the situation? Just as we use Simba as an illustration from the Lion King. When he ran away from what God was bringing him to use for example. Or running from his purpose and instead of running to his purpose. But when he came to himself, when he came to the end of that thing to realize, you know what, greater is he that is in me than he that is in this world. You know what? I am an overcomer to overcome this thing. You know what? God is faithful in performing what he's promised. So therefore, I'm not going to lean to my own understanding and face defeat, but I'm going to, in all my ways, acknowledge him because he has already purchased my victory. He has already overcome the world for me. And how do I overcome the world? By my faith in him. So through the faith that he exemplified on the earth, I, by that faith, show myself faithful to God and resting in what God said he would do. So when I leave it to God, it brings me to the next point. Oh, I got excited on that. I'm sorry. Go to Psalms, when leaving it with God, go to Psalms 55 and verse 22. It says to cast your burden, or cast that thing upon the Lord, and what he shall see. we trying to go to God with the weight on us. And then now, because of the weight being on us, we are more consumed by the weight, and we can't hear God because we got the weight on us. Don't go to God with the weight. You let God know about the weight. God, give me the answer to overcome this thing. But don't take the weight with you, because if you take the weight with you, then you're not seeing what God is trying to do in the situation, because we're bogged down with the thing when we're supposed to be casting. See, when you cast something, you're throwing it off. You're dispelling it from yourself. So now I don't have, if I cast it and I left it, I don't have it with me anymore. God got it. And I know if I can't do nothing about it, God can do everything about it. Why am I going to take it back and me try to figure it out? When I give it to the person who knows everything, I'm limited in my knowing. But I serve a God that knows it all. So watch this. I'm going off course a little bit, but let's just flow with the Spirit. Let me find the scripture passage. Let's go to Hebrews, the 12th chapter, verse 1, I believe it is. Let's see if we're right. Hebrews 12. It says, seeing you also are compassed about with so great cloud of witnesses, those that have gone before you, who found themselves faithful to God in going through. Now, we talk a lot about the hall of faith, and we talk about that to get things, and we talk about that to see how to be faithful and to get this. But they went through something. Some of them were thrown in lions' dens. Some of them were attacked by enemies. Some of them were conquered by others, and God brought them through it. Some had sicknesses and disease that were on them that they came through. How did they come through? By faith, meaning leaning not on their own understanding, but in all their ways acknowledging God, and God made their path straight. I'm getting through this. This is not going to destroy me. This is come to pass. This sickness is not unto death, but God is going to get the glory through it. I'm coming out greater. I'm coming out better. Come on, that got to be your report. That has to be your joy. Come on, let's get back to. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm excited. Y'all know me. Come on. I'm trying to help you get better. Stop settling for defeat. That's not your resident. That's not to reside with you. There's greater on the inside of you. Are you hearing me? Stop counting yourself out. Stop limiting yourself by a belief system that has been handed to you that is not God's best for you. Throw that stuff to the side. Forget that. The one thing that Paul said he do is forget those things which are behind me. Because when you forget those things which are behind you, it gives you focus to press toward the mark. To press toward where you're going. Let us lay aside. See what it says here? Lay aside every weight that so easily besets us, and the sin which so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. You can't run the race with the weight. Come on, is somebody getting this? Or do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? You cannot run the race with the weight. That's why you got to cast it on him, so he can give you the eagle's wings to fly above the situation, so you can run this race successfully. It's to be patient, to endure. That word endures there is the race is set before us. How you endure the race. How you cope with it when you're going through it. Are you going to keep pressing, or are you going to stop because it hurt? Are you going to give up because everybody against you? Are you going to give in because everybody said you wouldn't amount to anything, or you wouldn't become this, or you wouldn't become that? Are you going to throw in the towel? No, don't throw in the towel. Throw the towel on God and let him give you the strength to get back up like Rocky. You are not about to be counted out. You are about to be counted up. Look up to the heavenly where your help comes from, because your help comes from the Lord. Come on. Somebody ought to shout with me on the other end of that camera there. Let us run the race. Look at verse 2. Looking unto Jesus, coping through Christ. Looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. See, he's showing us. So how is he showing us to cope with this thing? Because he found himself in the same situation, having to cope with something that was so unbearable that he found himself at a place of anguish in himself. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane before going to the cross. And he found himself in a place of anguish where he asked God, God, is there a way that this cup can pass me? Is there a way that this path that I have to take can be done a different way? And there was no other way for it to be done. In order for you and me to be able to have this victory that I'm speaking of right now, and to be able to cope with Christ, as you go back to our topic slide, and in order for us to be able to cope with Christ, for us to cope, he coped for us to be able to cope. This little cross right here. But in order for us to be able to cope through him, he had to go through the cross for us. It was while we were yet sinners that he died. It was the chastisement of our peace was upon him. He was bruised for our iniquities. And with every strike that he took, we are made whole. So, why, if you have a greater in you to help you cope, why not lean to that as opposed to leaning to ourselves who needed someone to help us cope in the first place? So if I couldn't get myself through it in the first place, why am I leaning on myself to try to get through something that is beyond me when I have available to me something beyond me to help me get through the situation that I'm getting through? You need revelation knowledge to understand how to cope with this thing on another level. See, you've been playing on this level for so long, that's all you know is the blueprint for that level. That's all you know is the game plan for that level. But when it takes another level to get through the situation, you got to go to that level to get the game plan for the level that you're playing on. Why you find yourself stuck season after season in the same place? Because you've been trying to do it the same way, and you're getting the same result, and you're becoming insane in the situation because you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, but you're getting the same result that you've been getting. You're facing the same struggle that you've been facing. You're facing the same demons that you've been facing because you're still trying to fight them on the level that you've been on, and you've learned how to play on that level, but you're dealing with situations that's trying to take you to another level. You can't do it. It's bringing you to a place of frustration. So that brings me to the next point. Where we at? I got a little excited here. The next principle that we're going to talk about here is know that you are not alone. So before we go to that, let's jump right up to 1 Peter 5 and 7. I want to give these two passages and it'll lead us into this one. Cast all your cares. How many of your cares? All of them. Don't run the race with the weight on you. It's like you got a backpack. And in that backpack, you got so much stress. In that backpack, you got so much luggage, so much. I think I'm going to do that message again. I did this message a long time ago about the luggage you trying to carry into your next situation. I need to do that message again on a Sunday. Leave that luggage behind you. You can't take that with you to greatness. You can't take that with you to purpose because they don't fit for the purpose that God is bringing you to. And you wondering, I'm outgrowing these clothes. You outgrowing them clothes because you have changed your thinking. You have changed your way of thinking where I'm not going to be bitter, I'm going to be better. I'm not going to be negative, I'm going to be positive. I'm not going to be destroyed. I am coming through this and I'm coming out greater. So you got a struggle going on because you're trying to see those clothes that you putting on of yesterday don't fit you for tomorrow. Come on. I know some of you might have tried to, you got in your closet, you got a size 32 and you wear 40 now. You wear a size 36 now. You can't fit that. Come on. side. Casting your cares upon him because he cares for you. Come on, we almost done. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walk about seeking whom he may devour. Did you see the first passage that we went to? He said, first, when you cast your cares upon him because he cares for you, what's going to happen next? That adversary, the devil, is coming at you. Because you know what he wants you to do? Pick it back up. When you claim you left it with God, he wants you to pick it back up. So, and for you to when you pick it back up, he's seeking whom he may devour. Who can I get back into that negative mindset? Who can I get back to that way of thinking? But when you cast it upon him, because he cares for you, you realize this when you're fighting that adversary that comes to you. The next point, you realize that we are not alone. I know you feel like you're alone in this situation. I know you feel like you don't have no one to turn to. You may feel like you're in this alone, or you don't have no one to turn to. I need you to know a kingdom principle. You are not alone. Emmanuel means God in man. Christ, his name. Jesus, the name. Emmanuel. God in man. God with us. It was his purpose and plan to dwell in mankind. So if he dwells in you, Christ dwells in you, the hope of glory, then you are never alone. Meaning you have always available to you access to the Father through the Son by his Spirit to everything that you need that pertains to life and godliness. You are not alone. So all you need to do now from this point forward is the last principle that we're going to talk about in this week's midweek message is watch God work. Let him do the work. Let God do. All you got to do is rest in his work, in his finished work. Come on, let's look at a passage to prove this out, and we'll end this two-part series. John, the 14th chapter, I believe it is, starting at verse 10. Look what Jesus says to his disciples. Believe you not that I am in the Father and the Father in me? Do you believe that I'm in the Father? Do you believe that me and the Father are one? He says, the words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwells in me, he does the work. Look what he says here. The words that I speak are not of my own self, but the words that I speak are doing the work of God. How do I rest in what I'm going through? How do I cope with this? By resting in it is found in what you are speaking. Oh, let the words of the Father speaking through you do the work. Look at verse 11. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father in me, or else believe me for the very work's sake. Put the word to work and watch God work it out for you. As he says in Ephesians, the 3rd chapter, verse 20, now unto him that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we can ask. You got to petition him. You got to seek him. You got to go to him first. Ask. You have not because you ask not. You have to go to him first with it. And your mindset in going to him have to be a mindset with thanksgiving. According to the power, where is the power at work? The power is at work in you. Come on. Now, what is our takeaway in this message here? Understanding that you are not alone. You have access into the kingdom. You have access to the word of God, to the word that we speak, the word that brings life. You have access to the word that will help navigate through the life's obstacles. And I believe in our next Kingdom Principle message here on Wednesday, midweek medicine, we got to talk about the word and how the word helps navigate me through life's obstacles. Join me next week in our midweek message, medicine, and we're going to talk about it. God bless you. I appreciate you for tuning in to this week's completion of our two-part message on coping through Christ. Hey, if this ministry has been a blessing to you, come alongside of us. Help us get these principles out. Help us to provide the platform for those who are needing help to navigate through life's obstacles, be able to get that help that they need. We're setting up a situation, or setting up the platform for those to be able to get this help. And by you coming alongside of us with your financial support, given to the kingdom work that God is doing through this ministry. So come alongside us. Text GIVE, GIVE, to 985-239-5700. Whatever amount that God will place on your heart to give. I thank those that are sharing these videos. I thank those that are reacting to them through Facebook, watching on YouTube. But in order for us to do the work, to physically do the work, we need your financial support. You may not have the time to pour into others, but you can come alongside us for where we can do that work and helping and you. And look, you get credit for the work that we're doing. There's no way that I can do this on my own, but having partners come alongside with us so that we can be able to provide these resources to those that are in need who don't have the financial ability to get the help. Text GIVE to 985-239-5700, whatever God will put on your heart. God bless you. I'm thankful that you are tuning in, joining us. Share it with someone. If this message has blessed you, send it to someone and let it be a blessing to them. And may God continue to bless. Beloved, I wish above all that you will prosper and be in health, even as your soul prosper. God bless you.